Hi, Halima. Welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure. So I see that you've written one book. It sounds very interesting, and we're going to get to that for sure. But before we do, why don't you tell the people watching this who you are and where you live and how you got to the point where you wrote this book?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in here. My name is Halima. I am actually originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I call myself the Wanderer because I've been traveling for almost the last 10 years. I can't believe how much time has passed. Mother of two boys. I am a teacher, and I've been writing actually for quite a while, but I'm very happy to be able to get acknowledgement as an author, a writer, and just someone, to be able to share a very special story.
Okay, well, now let's get to it. What is the name of your book?
So the book's name is The Day Little Condors Flew, Memoirs of My Escape from Boredom. Boredom is in Somaliland, so I'm basically talking about my experience, a very traumatic experience leaving from Boredom, that town.
I have to say that even though I like geography, I don't know where that is. You want to fill us in?
Yeah, I know this is a name that not many people have heard of. Somaliland is an autonomous region of Somalia. So they're now trying to gain international recognition, but at the moment they are still seen as a northern part of Somalia. And Borama is a small little town, very green town. Is part of this small country, Somaliland.
Well, Somalia has had some difficulties over the last few decades. So when were you living there?
Yeah, so I was living there. I moved there in 2015, and I left towards the end of 2019. And then I ended up coming back about 2 years or so later. I've been going back and forth since actually, but yeah, a lot of people are familiar with the turmoil in Somalia, Mogadishu. They talk about it a lot, but um, I think a lot of it is beyond what we are familiar with. There are so many other parts of Somalia that many people don't even know about. Somaliland is very different, I would say. Is very peaceful. I did not, for a long time, I lived there a very peaceful and stable life before this story. And even when I went back, it was still peaceful. So it's a little bit different than what is broadcast, in media concerning Somalia.
Things usually are. I lived in Toronto for 39 years, and I've known a few Somalians because Toronto is probably the most multicultural city in the world. And yeah, I've eaten the food at the certain restaurants, and people seem very nice. People are nice around the world. I think there's more nice people than there are not nice people. It's unfortunate that the loud, brash voices get all the attention. So I agree
Right,
with you.
right.
I
And
agree
that's
with you.
usually
My question is, you say you kept going back. Why was that?
I felt an attachment, and I also kept feeling this need for closure. Um, so one, I had this attachment. Both of my kids were born there. I lived there for a long time, and when I left, I actually struggled in the West to readapt myself because I'd been living a very specific life in Africa for so long. And it became, I guess, a matter of an attachment, and it became a little bit difficult to adjust elsewhere. But also, I realized that I had this constant need for closure from my situation to make sense of everything that had happened. And so I went back to the same spots looking for that closure, and that's when I realized actually I wasn't really going to find what I was really looking for. That closure had already happened. The door was closed. I was able to reflect, and really once I had written the book, that's when it all came to me like this is the perfect, I think, goodbye to that chapter.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, well, let's talk about the book in a little more detail then. You mentioned that it's some sort of escape that you had to do. Was it dangerous, your first time leaving that region? Was it, were you in danger?
Yeah, so so here's what happened. When I moved there in 2015, I met a guy, a local, fell in love, normal story, got married, had kids. And over the years, he started to become mentally sick. So when that happened, some of his family kind of took advantage of that position, and they pretty much attempted to push him aside and take over me and the kids as part of their responsibility. It was a mix of culture and control. They wanted to pretty much control us. And the situation became very dangerous. I mean, it became a position where without his protection, me and my kids were pretty much left in a very dangerous situation. They started instigating it, so then he started to become abusive. Like I said, he's not mentally stable himself. So it became just a very abusive and neglected situation. So with the advice from my mother, decided to try to leave. That they were not letting me leave. They wanted to hold me, and keep me with them in their house. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to leave easily, and so I had to kind of like sneak out. But as I was sneaking out, they saw me because they were having pretty much the whole town keep an eye on me. So they saw me, they tracked me down, and they were like, oh, if you're going to try to leave, then we're going to take your babies from you. Mind you, my children at the time, I had a 1 year old and an infant. So
Mm.
I was like, how could you take them? So they were like, it doesn't matter. This is what we're going to do. So, they tried to take the kids away. The justice system was not very just. It had a lot of corruption involved, so they would not allow me to leave, and I was actually held hostage in the city until this matter was resolved.
I see that this is a rather large book. It says it's 353 pages. It's quite
Yeah.
detailed book. You spent quite a bit of time writing this?
Yeah. What's funny about it is that I had been writing on and off for the last 4 years trying to get the story out, and I had not actually been able to do it. So last year, I was like, let me just focus on just this book. And it took me just a better part of that year to write. I just decided to completely put all my energy into it. I was writing day and night just to get
Mhm.
it out there.
Yeah. Were you journaling throughout this period of your life? And did those journals, if you did journal, become this book?
No, I used to do vlogs, travel vlogs, and videos. But other than that, no, I wasn't. I didn't really start until I left. That's when I started journaling. And then, yeah, I put those bits and pieces together, and refined them to make this story.
Hmm, that's good. Did you find that it helped you to write it all out and get it all out of your system? Did it empower you? Was it cathartic?
Yes, very much so. Very, very much so. I actually mentioned that in the last chapter. Writing it, the funny thing about this is that writing this story brought back so many memories that I had to come face to face with. And much of the story are lifetime reflections. It's not like something that is, drafted so that I could sound more prolific. They're actual reflections that I'm having at the time. So when I finished the book, it was very empowering. It was like, wow, I'm telling a story that is very difficult to tell, very embarrassing almost, but I'm putting it out there. And like I said, it just felt like closure. It felt really good to finally get it out.
Yeah. So now you're living in Baltimore, you said?
No, now I'm living in Kenya.
Oh, in
I'm
Kenya.
traveling
All
away from
right.
where,
You're a
yeah.
world traveler. Well,
Yes, I am.
while you were in the United States, how did you feel? Did you feel welcomed? Were you having to put up with some unfortunate misunderstandings about the way you dress and the way you look?
Before I went, or you mean when I came back?
When you were living in the United States. I know it's a kind of a difficult question to answer, but I just like to be real. Um,
Yeah.
with the way things are now, was that difficult for
Yeah.
you to be in the United States?
I think, I was born and raised there, and I was born and raised in a mostly Muslim area. So it was easy, growing up. Pretty much that's all I knew.
Okay.
Pretty much that's all I knew. But when I returned, it was more of a challenge because I returned with a completely different mindset, now a more worldly mindset,
Right.
and a much different culture. And that was very difficult for people to accept. They would say, well, you're American, act like it. And that statement is always funny to me because America is a very diverse country. The United States of America, I should say, is a very
Mhm.
diverse country. So what does it mean to act American,
Yeah. A little bit of that going on here too.
in Canada?
Some places, not in Toronto necessarily, but when you leave the hub of GTA, there's a little bit of that going on. Of course,
Yeah.
I don't qualify to be part of that on either way, but I do understand the difficulty that some people have based on their dress or a turban or a hijab or just their religion, just expressing their religion. I think it's real shameful that people think that way. But now you live in
Yeah.
Kenya. Why are you
Yeah.
living in
So,
Kenya? What's happening there?
well, I've been here for a year now, and again, I went back to Somaliland for another trip back, and from there, I was like, I'm really not comfortable staying here again. I'm ready to just leave. So the closest place was Kenya. I said, you know what? I've never been here. I've been to Ethiopia. I've been to much of the Horn of Africa. So I said, let's try Kenya and let's see what's here.
Sure.
And it's been a nice experience so far. It's been great.
And what do you teach?
So right now I teach elementary students, but I've been teaching a myriad of subjects, including social studies, English, mostly English, since I've been on this side of the world.
Yeah.
But right now I'm teaching elementary. I'm teaching the
Okay.
babies.
Well, give us a nice positive image of Kenya and parts of Africa that you have lived in and you've done a little bit already, but I want to really promote life in Africa. It's a continent. I mean, there's many countries, but it's not all
Yeah,
that bad, is it? I mean, we know in Sudan right now there's problems, and there's problems everywhere in the world, but Africa, I think, is
sure.
the next continent to pay attention to long after I'm gone. I think in 40, 50 years, I think it's going to really rise up to be the next continent to pay attention to. So what's your take on that?
They're going through Africa as a continent really is going through an amazing transition right now, really trying to empower their countries in a positive way.
Yeah.
But, it's so much more. Africa, its name rings a lot louder than corruption and all this things that, the people know about. What I love about Africa is that the simplicity of life is fresh air, it's simplicity, it's friendly faces. You avoid the hustle. Like I said, coming from the West, we're just always running. We're always on the run, always looking for the next best thing. But in Africa, you just get a moment to slow down and to breathe. And that was really, experiencing that for me for the first time was really so emotional. Being able to connect to my roots and to the land in such a simplistic way was beautiful.
Mhm.
Not to mention that, I mean, the where else can you find natural resources, diamonds and rubies just on the ground? I remember when I was in Somaliland, we used to trip over them
Oh my goodness.
when going to the park.
Wow, I didn't
So,
know that.
yeah, I mean, that's how rich, the soil is. We used to climb up to the mountain, and I mean, from the mountain, you just get to see the entire horizon, and everyone is just living their own lives. The animals are free, the stones are there, the air is cool, and it's beautiful, That's
Yeah,
why I keep coming back here.
wonderful. Yeah. I used to do a lot of camping north of Toronto and sort of mid part of Ontario, and you got to be careful about the bears. And they even say they have a rattlesnake. I never saw one. But yes, bears are a problem, and you have to prepare yourself and do things in a certain way so as you don't get attacked by a bear. Otherwise, they leave you alone. In Kenya, what kind of things do you have to look out for?
I mean, everyone knows about the safari, but actually, when you're in the city, you don't really see the safari animals like that. It's not like we just see lions walking by. Um, what do I really look out for? There's not really, wild animals just, walking around the road. But I guess, if you do go outside of, the city and, where there's a lot of people, same like in Somaliland, then you find a lot of hyenas, a lot of, cheetahs, things like that.
Yeah.
Actually in Somaliland, I got a chance to touch a cheetah, to touch the lion. I did not feed the hyenas, but the hyena did actually come to our car, and we
Mhm.
were not in a safari. We were actually on the road, on the highway, going towards going
Yeah.
back home, and
Sure.
the hyena just came to us. So those are things that happens. That is
Yeah.
the African life.
Yeah. Well, we have moose crossing roads sometimes. If you're out west in Canada,
I think that was
5,000 elk
terrifying.
would decide to cross the Trans-Canada Highway. You're gonna wait an hour before they get across. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I love wildlife. So nothing poisonous or anything like that. I had a friend of mine who went to Ecuador. He says, you got to be really careful. Everything's poisonous there.
Oh my goodness, that would
Yeah.
scare me. Not that I know of, not around here. When you go closer to the desert, you have to watch out for scorpions and things like
Ah,
that. But
yeah.
lizards and snakes. Oh my god, I don't like that.
I hear
Actually,
scorpions are very tasty though. They have them on a stick, like in China they eat them. You can get them at McDonald's. McScorpions, I'm told. I guess. I don't know.
imagine instead of getting French
Well,
fries, you get your scorpions.
land shrimp. That's what they are. Just land shrimp. Okay. Well, how's book sales for you?
So far, they're steady. Not as many as I'd like, but it's been steady. We get a good few sales every month since I've published a book, so that's good.
Good for
I'm
you.
hoping to do more promotions and more appearances so that we can increase book sales.
Well, it looks like I said, a fairly detailed book at 300 some odd pages. It's a good detailed read. I'm sure you placed a lot of information in there. Did you put any pictures in there at all?
No, no. I got some suggestions that perhaps for the next book I should put pictures in there. I tried to avoid that this time, but I was told that that would be a good idea
Mhm.
actually.
Yeah. Well, it is an
Actually,
escape story. So I guess there's some these sad parts, like your life is not, you described what was going on. And so the reader would say, oh my goodness, how's she going to get out? Obviously, you got out. And so I take it the book has a happy ending.
yeah, yeah. I'm still here. No, through all of that, through all of the madness, I am here. So it's definitely a happy ending.
Good.
But yeah, it takes readers through quite a journey, and it's going to be a bit emotional.
Yeah. And there's
Yeah,
women around the world, they have similar situations. It's not just in Africa,
mhm.
it happens here. I've interviewed a few women who have written their life story of some of the bad things happening to them. So
Yeah,
I'm always
it's
happy to
really
hear that there's a
unfortunate.
happy ending. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's inspiring, for other people who may be going through this, at least they know that, there is happiness on the horizon. There is an opportunity for hope for them.
Good. I hear your kids in the background. So
Yes, those
you-
two little ones. They are older now and rambunctious bunch.
are they old enough to know that their mother wrote a book?
I have not told them. I,
Uh,
I probably should,
yeah.
I don't know why I never thought about telling them.
Well, when they're old enough, then you see that mom wrote a book and you say you're working on a second one or you're thinking of writing a second one?
Yeah, I'm actually drafting ideas for a second one now.
Great.
Haven't quite gotten an angle yet, so
Okay. Good for you.
yeah,
Well,
I don't
when you
want to
write that book,
dramatize.
when you finally write it, let me know and we'll cover that one as well. We'll have another chat about your life and your books.
I surely will, and
All
thank
right.
you so much again.
You're welcome. You take care of yourself now, Mom.
Thank you so much, John,
Bye.
and to everybody out there again. Thank you also. I really appreciate the support, especially for a story like this one.
Excellent. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And that's our show for today. If you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell for future notifications. And if you are a self-published author, I would really like to speak with you. Until such time, keep on writing and be kind to one another.